Hello. I wanted to talk about Justin Martyr today. It's been a matter of controversy, even on our channel, with some of the comments made about what did the early church believe about the future. Did this belief in heaven and hell take over the eschatology of the church? That is, their doctrine of the last things right away. What was the belief of the martyrs of the 2nd and the 3rd centuries before Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire? Well, one of our best sources is Justin Martyr. His name is not Martyr. Of course, the word martyr in Greek is simply the word witness, which you find throughout the New Testament, but also by the time of the 3rd and 4th centuries, it had been transferred from the idea of testimony to the idea of martyrdom, as we would look at it today. So the word witness really roots into the word witness. The word martyr roots into the word witness as it was originally used in the New Testament. So Justin Martyr is a Christian of Gentile origin, born in Samaria around the year 100. So he was born right around the time the apostles had died off. John's Revelation had just preceded this, apparently, and the Gospel of John and the Epistles of John in the previous 5 to 10 years. So Justin Martyr is Gentile, a pagan by upbringing, trained in philosophy. By the time he meets an elderly Syrian Christian who converts him to the new faith, and the faith included the idea that the Old Testament somehow was the source of Greek philosophy. So that helped build a bridge between the testimony of this elderly Christian and Justin Martyr's already held beliefs that the highest form of wisdom on the planet was that of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and the other Greek philosophers. So this Christian had convinced Justin, apparently, that somehow the Greek philosophers derived their wisdom from the Old Testament. So, of course, Justin got interested in the Old Testament. And when he became a convicted Christian, he started traveling with his beliefs, and one of his stops was in Greece, in Corinth. And in Corinth he runs into a Jewish philosopher called Trypho, spelled Trypho. And his dialogue with Trypho is recorded for us. If you have access, even by internet, to some of the great websites that exist that reprint public domain materials, here is one of your great sources. I had, even when I was a witness, this 10-volume set of the Ante-Nicene Fathers, that is, the fathers who testified and died before 325, the Council of Nicaea. This is one volume of the Ante-Nicene Fathers devoted to the Apostolic Fathers, so-called, those that had a direct link to the apostles. And Justin Martyr is just after that. So Justin Martyr, being born around 100, flourishes and probably writes this dialogue with Trypho around the year 160, a little after that. So here's part of the dialogue with Trypho from chapter 80. He's talking to Trypho about the hope that Christians have and how continuous that hope is with Trypho's Old Testament. And here's how the dialogue goes. Trypho says, "I remark to you, sir, that you are very anxious to be safe in all respects, since you cling to the Scriptures. But tell me, do you really admit that this place, Jerusalem, shall be rebuilt? And do you expect your people to be gathered together and made joyful with Christ and the patriarchs and the prophets, both the men of our nation and other proselytes who joined them before your Christ came? Or have you given away and admitted this in order to have the appearance of worsting us," that is the Jews, in the controversies? Then I answered, Justin answers, "I am not so miserable a fellow, Trypho, as to say one thing and think another. I admitted to you formerly that I and many others are of this opinion, and believe that such will take place, as you assuredly are aware. But on the other hand, I signify to you that many who belong to the pure and pious faith and are true Christians think otherwise." So Justin is admitting that even by 150, 160 AD, Christians have diverse opinions on eschatology. Moreover, I pointed out to you that some who are called Christians, but are godless, impious heretics, teach doctrines that are in every way blasphemous, atheistical, and foolish. But that you may know that I do not say this before you alone, I shall draw up a statement, so far as I can, of all the arguments which have passed between us, in which I shall record myself as admitting the very same things which I admit to you. For I choose to follow not men or men's doctrines, but God, and the doctrines delivered by him. For if you have fallen in with some who are called Christians, who do not admit this truth, and venture to blaspheme the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, who say there is no resurrection of the dead, and that their souls, when they die, are taken to heaven. Do not imagine that they are Christians, even as one, if he would rightly consider it, would not admit that the Sadducees are similar sects of the Genistai or Meristai, Galileans, Hellenists, Pharisees, Baptists, are Jews. The list he's just given here is various sects that had arisen among the Jews. Do not hear me impatiently when I tell you what I think. These are only called Jews and children of Abraham, worshipping God with the lips, as God himself declared, but the heart was far from him. But I and others who are right-minded Christians on all points are assured that there will be a resurrection of the dead, and 1,000 years in Jerusalem, which will then be built, adorned and enlarged, as the prophets Ezekiel and Isaiah and others declare. So what we call today the premillennial faith is clearly taught by Justin Martyr. Although he admits many Christians think differently. He doesn't even want to call them Orthodox. He wants to call them heretics. So the tendency of the church to divide is obviously there already. But we can see that the eschatology of the Old Testament, he believes, is also the eschatology of the true Christians. And that eschatology includes the idea that Jerusalem will be rebuilt and the saints and Christ will rule from there during a period of 1,000 years. Now in the next segment we'll talk about how Justin Martyr links this eschatology to both the prophets and to the New Testament, and specifically the Revelation of John.